advised.
Greetings from the Philippines to the world. We are on Facebook Live on Eagle News and Net25 TV and also on our streaming site eaglenewslive.com. Watch us on our YouTube channel at Net25 TV. I am Cesar Vallejos. Welcome to Open for Business. Join me discover the latest news and information in business around the world. Stay ahead of the curve from vision to action. Today, we will tackle two interesting topics. The first one is about the elements and importance of a business continuity plan from the perspective of a key player in the construction and logistics industry. The second interesting topic are the changes in media consumption and how brands can communicate their messages through various media platforms. We will talk with Mr. Antonio Gerardo Abellar, the Chief Finance Officer of JP Marzan Project Ventures Incorporated, who will also share with us the business resumption protocols to ensure health and safety of employees and his outlook in the construction and logistics industry. And we will also discuss the changes in media consumption with the insights of Michael Dugi Dohenia, President and CEO of PRC Inc. What are the strategies that can be tapped in building a brand during the pandemic? What are the recovery initiatives for MSMEs to bounce back? Open for Business will be back. Let's pause for these reminders.
Do you want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@neu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@neu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
Open for Business is back, and with me is the Chief Finance Officer of JP Marzan Project Ventures Incorporated, Mr. Jerry Abellar. Good day to you, Jerry.
Good afternoon, Cesar. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Our topic this afternoon, today is very interesting, logistics recovery strategies for COVID-19, because we both know and we are both aware that it's really the logistics industry that has been affected by COVID-19. But before I ask you questions about COVID-19, we also know that the logistics industry is really, one of the booming industries in the Philippines. As a matter of fact, you are very known for your contribution to the build campaign of the Duterte administration, and you have a very, very, large role to play in the construction industry, and not only in the construction industry, but in other related industries. So, may I know, Jerry, how was JP Marzan Project Ventures doing before this global pandemic happened?
Well, before this pandemic happened, we were all very excited about the build by the government. In fact, we are very proud that we are part of the nation building of the government project. So we are ready. In fact, we've already steady, or I would say, park all our heavy equipment, our resources, manpower in preparation for the 2020 build. We are looking at 2020 as a very good year, not only for our company, JP Marsan Project Venture, but also to the entire constructions and logistic company all over Philippines. So we are all getting ready for it. But just you've mentioned, these things happen, so we kind of stop there.
Mhm. Just for our audience to know, with the JP Marzan Project Ventures, what specific services do you offer? Well, we know that with the construction and logistics business, there's really a lot of infrastructure requirements that's needed, from building of huge skyscrapers, from building of roads and bridges. What are the services that you offer, and what is its impact in your overall revenues? You don't have to be, to give me very, very specific, because it might be we might divulge some of your trade secrets here, but at least just for our audience to know what really stopped, for them to really appreciate that.
So just like you've mentioned, Cesar, in every particular project, big or small, there are requirements for a supply chain. No? So I'd like to present JP Marstan in terms of our contribution or supply chain in that project. So we provide trucks, trailers to lift those, I would say, equipment to be used in building, let's say, MRT7, MRT3. So we deliver them. We're getting these heavy equipments, materials from the port down to their destination. So that's one key point of our supply chain. We also provide manpower, technical team, to really use them in installing this equipment and materials to be used for this build project. So those are really the supply chain that we are providing in relation to the build project of the government.
So, Jerry, by the looks of it, it's really wide, because you're talking about huge equipment, you're talking about transportation equipment, and you're talking about manpower. So the impact is really huge in your business. But what was the initial reaction of this of your company? Was it really what were the adjustments that you made to ensure, of course, the safety of the employees? Because I keep repeating this, di ba? Governments, not only the Philippines but around the world, talagang namimili yan. Is it going to be the economy, or is it going to be the health and safety of its people? In your case, normally with the CEOs and C-level executives like you, talagang it should come from the key management, and it goes down to the employees. What were your initial reactions? What were your initiatives in addressing this problem?
So, Cesar, first, I think everyone in the business sectors were very, very shocked about when the government declares the lockdown quarantine period. So everything stops. So and everyone in any sector are not familiar with this kind of situation. So we are also trying to organize, how are we going to somehow move on and proceed with the businesses. Second is how will be the safety of our employees while we are still in quarantine. So that's always been the discussion around the table during that time. Twofold, Cesar. About safety and preventive measures because of the COVID-19 pandemic, what we did in the company JP Marsan Project Venture, we really reactivate our business continuity plan. We want to protect our people. We listen to the government, to the DOH in terms of protocol, health guidelines. So we apply that in our organization. I'd like to reiterate the wearing of masks, the shield, the alcohol, disinfect. These are all standard requirements now that we have in our organization. Now, with regards to our client, we also join them in terms of helping them recover and move on while we are in this pandemic. What do we do with our client? Not only for the business sector and not only for the government sector, but also for the private sector. So we started talking to them. We kind of changed the game plan a bit because we know for the fact that it slows down. The entire timeline changes already. Funding is also difficult and challenging, Cesar. So what we are doing right now is establish a win-win situation for both the clients. Like let's say outright we have to request for a down payment. Now we have to readjust, and just to help everyone to move on and finish the project. I'm sure it will encounter delays already, but I think the common goal of everyone here is still push through with the game plan. We might have delays, but bottom line, at the end of that situation, we will still achieve our goal in finishing the projects. At the same time, addressing the health issues, protocol issues within the organization. Nowadays, Cesar, every time we go into a lot of projects, it might be private or government, it requires them the protocol procedure. I think that's the new normal right now. So it might add costs to our operation expenses. However, it also protect our employees for the COVID-19. So I think everyone is on the same page about protect first your organization, protect first your employees, and then proceed with our project partnership. That's really the game plan.
Wow, wow, well said, Jerry. That's really very interesting. And what is also amazing is that with all the initiatives that you mentioned, you're giving priority to your people. And what is also good about that is you extend it to your partners because, as you mentioned, everyone is affected. You're in this. We're all in this together. Another interesting concept that you mentioned, Jerry, is you mentioned about this business continuity plan. So ngayon, ang tanong ko, Jerry, is how do you define a business continuity plan, and what are the specific elements that has to be there in layman's terms? Because we also would want to share with our small business owners na siyempre kahit na ang tao mo lima lang dyan or 10 lang or micro entrepreneur ka. So you have, even if you're alone or you have one staff. So what is a business continuity plan? And the reason why you're also very interesting to tell about it is because you have control over the finances. So as you mentioned, there might be some expenses related to it, but it is for the long term. So what are the important elements that has to be in the business continuity plan, and what exactly is it?
Cesar, with regards to the BCP, I'd like to share this to our fellow, in the business sector. Here in JP Marsan Project Venture, you mentioned a while ago, we create BCPs in terms of calamities. Now it's a different BCP for everyone. You have, number one, your BCP should have a very strong internet connection. Because now it's not only physical that you will move to a different place. You can now continue your business, doing it at home, but you should have a very strong internet connections. That's one. So we kind of, what we did, we know for the fact that we cannot no longer do face to face with our business meetings. What we did was we provide everyone with a laptop. It might not be the high end thing, but at least it's functional. That's very, very key in the BCP right now while we're having this pandemic. And of course, coincide with that is a very strong internet connections, right? So that's one of the BCP that we did. Now, what we are doing also, and part of the BCP, is we are creating a lot of, even as senior management team, if in the event we got COVID, no, hope not. We've already identified key people in the senior management to run the business.
Okay.
So we will have like a transitional leadership as part of our BCP in the event that key senior management experience, or I would say, got a COVID. No, hope not. So that's a second one. No, transitional leadership in the event that we experience that or we got that COVID thing. The third one would be the site. You mentioned that already, Cesar. When we have typhoon, let's say one site is flooded, we go to the different site. So we've already added 2 more small satellite offices in the event that we have to close one big office. If they, let's say, they experience COVID in that facility, because for the fact, health protocol, we should shut down or lock down that facility and have it quarantine all the people there, correct? At the same time, disinfect. So those are the 3 BCPs that in place right now. The first and the first 2 BCPs are really very critical. One, create a transitional leadership in case somebody got a COVID. The first one really is to put your internet connections, your laptop to be on a not really high end, but functional, because that's very, very essential. Without those 2 BCPs right now, it might be difficult for a business to really move on.
Wow, those are very practical tips, and so far these are very insightful, because a lot of people also don't realize the need, especially if your business is not necessarily related to technology, but
Yes.
even if your business is like, say for example, we deal with a lot of food related. For example, you're a farmer, but you don't know where this produce will be delivered. It's good that we're also talking with some of the businesses who can provide them the internet connection or the avenues where their produce can reach their specific markets. And thank you for sharing those. Ngayon, what were the business resumption protocols that you observed to ensure the health and safety of your employees and your partners?
Okay. One new normal for us on the construction and logistics industry is that every time we deploy our manpower on the specific project, before the pandemic, after, let's say, after the end of the shift, they just go home, go back to their family, right? Now we have to provide them specific home base to avoid having, we, of course, the concept right now, Cesar, is that assume everyone has COVID, correct? So after each shift, every day, every time they report to the project site, they have to go into a specific area and have them quarantine. No? And then let's say the project is done already. We are not allowing them to go home to their specific, I would say, family. You just wait there until such time that you quarantine for a few days before you could actually go back. And that's really the protocol of the government. You listen to other, from DOH, that's always been the concept, to help the entire nation in not spreading the COVID. Just help the government in following this kind of protocol. I think everyone will be safe. But that's the challenge, no? Because you can just imagine after one project, they cannot just go home yet. Of course, we have to also to consider that they also have family that they have to look for. No?
Okay. Ang nakalimutan kong tanungin kanina, Jerry, was I think you mentioned this related to your stakeholders. You mentioned that you had to adjust also the timelines with them because, of course, if there's a shutdown, with a shutdown, everything is moved. My question is, in terms of business continuity again, How do you manage that? Is there like say when you agree with a specific timelines that has to be revised? How do you manage that? Talagang do you have to really do an open communication? How often do you deal with them? You know, is there some sort of a revision of everything? You know, from your business plan, from your proposals. How do you manage that, especially your with finance?
Correct. I don't want to be very technical and rocket science approach on
Okay.
this financial thing. I would, I'm sure you've heard this word over and over again. Address only what is essential.
Mm.
So now everyone is just reacting to the essential. Before the pandemic, you can always allocate fundings already and even release, even if the supply chain is not yet there, but it's already been allocated. Now, being a chief financial officer, I've already instructed everyone, even our client, no, we will just pay you for whatever essentials, and
Mm.
vice versa, Caesar. They are also paying us on whatever is essential. So
Mm.
it might be very slow for everyone right now, but I think that's pretty much safe in terms of financial, in terms of operational, in terms of achieving your goal in finishing the project. It might have delays. I keep on telling that already. But now, Mike, but now, Caesar, as a business, this is now separates men from the boys.
Mm.
We in a senior management team,
Yes.
we are now starting to move away from the word while we are in COVID. This is the business already. Before we can plan 2-3 years business plan. Now every day we are just reacting on the situation. And every time we are in the boardroom, we will always say, enough of the COVID. We know that. From the States, from Europe, from Asia, everyone has the same reason. But what's our recommendations to move on? As this is the new business platform that we have.
I like.
So that's how we move on.
Wow, that's very insightful, Jerry. I'm enjoying this conversation. Unfortunately, I have two more because we're running out of time. So tell me more, or tell us more about your projects, initiatives that you are planning to do to help your clients recover from this crisis. Because you said, talagang ano na eh, parang this is it. This is the new normal. This is the uh, and this is not on the textbooks, di ba? You cannot easily
Correct.
search this on even you finished two MBAs or several MBAs or online courses. You cannot have find this copy paste this strategy and use it on your own. So it's I think my question there is people or your clients have to innovate as well. In your case, what specific innovations and have you done to ensure that your clients would also adjust? Sometimes you have to. We also have to educate our partners, hindi ba? Because if they do not innovate or move like the way you do, di ba? There's it's disjointed. There's misalignment in terms of goals. Can you comment on that? On your initiatives, how you can help them, and the innovations that you introduce not only to the company and also for your clients?
I think one of the approach of JP Marsan Project Venture is really commit the organization. A lot of our peers count or even colleagues in the business sectors are very much afraid until such time that we have vaccine. We cannot wait for that, Cesar. It will take a lot of our resources eaten up if you wait for the vaccine. So it's just really trusting and making sure that we will protect them at the same time, be there for them one step at the time. It might be baby steps right now until such time we have the vaccine, but at least we are moving. Because nowadays, even if you talk to a new project, they would always stop you there and said, let's wait for the vaccine. Let's wait for next year. Anyway, Jerry, we are just entering to the last quarter of 2020. For them, they look at it, 2020 is gone. But for us in JP Morrison Project Venture, we start planting the trees right now. So that by 2021, we are ready to go instead of you starting next year, right? So we partner with the business clients, our partners, to ensure that it might not be very big plans, Cesar, but at least let's start talking, let's start doing some resourcing already. It might not be big, but we are ahead already with other. I keep on telling them, Philippines should never stop. Look at Vietnam, look at South Korea, look at our Asian countries. They did not stop.
Yes.
Why would you put ourselves into a situation wherein the absence of COVID, in the absence of vaccine, we have to wait and defer? No, we should not. In fact, we should start moving and move on. For me, in JP Marsan Project Venture, COVID is already there. It's a thing of the past. We are just trying to protect ourselves, prevent ourselves of getting it, right? Yeah. By wearing masks, by shield. Again, I overemphasize this. But we will all move on, Cesar. I don't want to see the entire Philippines or even our company, JP Marsan, to get stuck on this pandemic. We have to fight, Cesar. That's the bottom line. Laban Pilipinas.
Wow, that is lovely. That is lovely. That's a good ending of the conversation. But there, I have one final question.
Cesar.
Yeah. Siyempre, alam naman natin, construction logistics industry, you have a very, very big contribution to the Philippine economy, but somehow, because of the pandemic, it stopped. So, may pag-asa pa ba? Kasi some of the, I think one of the recent interviews I had was that their income really went down, as high as 25% in terms of revenues. So, dito ba, do you see it growing in 2021 or 2022? So what is your outlook of the construction and logistics industries?
I'm very, very optimistic. We in JP Marsan Project Venture are very optimistic. We in JP Marsan, we are good to go. The question there is, will you be with us? Tataya ka ba? Sometimes people are very afraid of taking the risk. Yeah. Some people would take it a calculated risk. That's fine. I respect that. However, kung magka-calculated risk ka in this pandemic time, baka hindi mo ma-recover din. Baka ma-stuck ka sa ayoko na. I'm afraid. Dapat we move away from that kind of feeling that you are afraid. Sabi nga nila, again, new normal. Ito na to. Now we talk to each other like this every now and then, right? We go on Zoom every now and then because we want to believe that lahat may pag-asa. Lahat lalaban. No? Ako hindi ako magpapaiwan sa anumang Asian countries na kasama natin sa ASEAN because naniniwala ako at naninindigan ako ang Pilipino lalaban.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jerry, for this insightful conversation. As you mentioned, we should fight. Kailangan lahat lumaban. Pilipinas, laban tayo. That's Mr. Jerry Abeliar, the Chief Financial Officer of JP Marsan Project Ventures Incorporated. Open for Business will return. Stay tuned.
Sa September 5, Sabado at September 6, Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali at alas 9 ng gabi ay muli nating mapapanood ang mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on Philippine television and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2! Muling samahan ang ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang kanilang performances na magpapayanig at magbibigay ng kulay sa ating TNG stage. Dito lang yan sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Dito lang sa Net25. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Cooper, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, we find ways. JRC Industrial Sales, RS Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robis Builders, Chris Rack Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future. In partnership with New Era University ETAP, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Open for Business is back, and we will have a very interesting conversation with Michael Dugi Duhenia, Managing Director of PRC. How are you, Dugi?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
We are in the business of communication, and with a global pandemic, there's a lot of things that have to be communicated, and there's a lot of information that have to be processed, and people are before COVID we were talking about fake news also, and a lot of other things related to how we consume media. Now, with everything that's happening, with branding, with marketing, people now are changing how things are communicated, even brands, diba? I'm sure you have a lot of clients, and they have somehow these companies, the brands, and we also have a lot of small and medium SME owners and even large corporations who are shifting the way they communicate their brands to the public. Dugi, can you tell me, as an expert in this business, what are the changes in media consumption now? How are people consuming media nowadays?
Well, consumption of media has changed even before the pandemic. We've seen a lot of clients and brands shifting to the digital platform as a vehicle for their communications. And I think the pandemic merely pushed or expedited or sped up the transition from what we've all known as the traditional vehicles of communication to the digital platform. We've seen a lot of brands using not just social media, but even promoting themselves through digital influencers, the rise of bloggers, for instance, and brand influencers have just grown exponentially. And a lot of brands, particularly lifestyle brands, have been quick to jump on that bandwagon. And the pandemic, I believe, has given the opportunity for brands to really shift, I would say, dramatically to the digital platform insofar as communicating their messages and promoting themselves.
I see. Wow, that's interesting to know. And I just have to go back to what's happening right now, especially during the ECQs. Lahat ng tao pumupunta sa malls, lahat ng tao magpapalamig para manood sa malls. But this, everything, going to the cinemas, experiencing cinemas, where they get that kind of information or news or entertainment has stopped, has changed. Maybe even reading a newspaper has changed. Some people stop buying it because they fear for infection. So, ngayon ba, Dugi, how do you, in terms of viewership, in terms of listenership. I know that you started saying, that people now go to the digital, pero being a branding expert, being a communications expert, ito ba, babalik pa ba yun? Parang, do you think film will still be there, the out of home media outlets will still be there. So what's your outlook on this, Dugi?
Well, I think even with the development of vaccine, assuming for the sake of discussion that a vaccine happens late next year, I don't believe that we're going to go to pre-COVID or even pre-digital times wherein we still have a lot of people reading newspapers. Print is definitely going to is has been decreasing by double-digit percentage figures,
That's right.
and the news is really consumed through online portals, and even in fact, I tell this to my clients: brands or the news is actually news organizations. Even you look at social media for the news for trend, and then they actually report it as news. So you can see that social media is becoming the avenue for news. Of course, you mentioned fake news. That's why I tell my clients we have to exercise discernment when we read what's in social media, because not everything in social media is factual. So we have to verify it with legitimate sources. Now, going back to your question, will it go back to normal? I honestly don't think so. Will radio die? No, it won't. I don't believe radio will die, but it will. It's going to evolve and be more digitally focused or digitally connected, as opposed to how radio is now. TV is moving towards that. Movies are moving towards that. We see a lot of live streaming, a lot of movies that are being shown digitally, as opposed to the normal movie theaters.
Wow, that's interesting, Dugi. Now, what's really striking is what you said. Everything will be digitally led, which I agree, because even major media companies now go to digital first or social media first. Sometimes even brands, maybe even your companies will break their messages on social media first before they go into traditional. But let me go backtrack a bit. Yung social media ba, napansin mo ba, or having or going into digital first or everything digital somehow changed for the past 2 months or 3 months because of COVID?
Yes, not social media in general was pushed to the front lines by the COVID, because uh, when everybody was in lockdown, the only way to communicate with your loved ones was through social media. And of course, the usual mobile phones and all that. But social media became the means to connect and reconnect with people in the comfort and safety of your home. So we've seen a lot of breaking news happening in social media before they broke in even news portals, and even in our experience, news organizations, for instance, cross post their news coverages to social media pages, either through the social media page of that news organization or through their own personal social media pages. But again, is it verified? Is it genuine? That is where that's why I always say we have to exercise discernment, verify the facts, check with the local, with the more credible news portals, or the
Now,
genuine news organizations.
Now, it's clear that we have this rise of the social media consumption in the Philippines, not only actually in the Philippines, but in different parts of the world. The question is, how will now, this increase in social media consumption impact on the way brands communicate? I'm sure you give advice to your clients, to SMEs or even your corporate clients in terms of messaging, to be somehow sensitive with the times. One of the interesting things that I learned in the past few weeks is, of course, the difference between the essentials and the non-essentials. So, my question there, Dugi, is how should brands create or communicate their messages to somehow maximize this very, very strong media consumption now of audiences?
Well, I think two things. No, the first is your messages have to be skewed for the particular platform. We always encourage our clients to develop messagings that are for not just traditional media such as print, because there are still print organizations there and TV, but also for the digital platforms. We encourage our clients to explore executions that are for digital platforms. So you may have a message that is for print, but there has to be it has to be translated to fit all platforms there. For instance, video is becoming the trend, even among social media. Nobody likes to read text posts anymore in social media. So we encourage our clients to always look to developing video content for their social media platforms that the brand is connected to. And so that you can get your message across. And it's really a matter of crafting your messages across all platforms so that whoever and wherever your message comes out in, it still reaches the audience who consumes that particular platform. So you have to, as a brand, you have to craft your messages to fit all these platforms so that you can reach all your audiences wherever they are and however they consume media, for instance.
Having this experience in brand building, you're telling me now there's really a big shift to digital. My question now is in terms of cost. Have you really noticed in terms of budgets that budgets for TV, radio, has been somehow shifted significantly to digital? So how would you say what's your advice to maybe an SME, for example, who's watching, who has 1 million pesos, in terms of how he divides that add money to the different platforms?
It really depends on the category that the product or service is part of. Based from what we're seeing, corporate brands such as information technology, for instance, particularly the enterprise IT, are still very strongly consumed in traditional platforms such as online portals, TV, and even print. But if you're a lifestyle brand, I would normally recommend that you put it to the digital platform. If you have a limited amount of budget, then perhaps you can explore bloggers to be your lieutenants, so to speak, for your messaging. If you have a huge budget, then you can allocate it depending on who you want to talk to. For lifestyle brands, it's really going to be bloggers and influencers. But for corporate brands, for instance, or business-to-business brands, then print and online portals, traditional media, still have its purpose and are still important. So you can do a split there. But bloggers cannot be out of the picture. They are really part of the mix, whether a brand wishes to accept this or not. They are there. They are here to stay, for instance, and it is worth exploring allocating a certain budget. It can be a 60-40, a 30-70. It really depends on the category that the brand is in.
Dugi, what about the use of these campaigns of corporate social responsibility? I know I've noticed a lot of, like, say, for example, creating relief operations, donation drives for frontliners, and all. How important are these, and how do you ensure that this is not lip service? How do you ensure in your messaging that these are real, that these are sincere? Which I think, as an expert in branding, you will somehow notice if there is, the message in terms of COVID sensitivity resonates with the audience well, and the customers or patronizers will really buy that product.
Well, as far as CSR is concerned, if you want the public to see you as a brand that is truly sincere, or that is truly a responsible corporate entity, I think it doesn't matter where you put your messaging, where it is broadcasted, whether it is social media or print or TV, doesn't matter. But what's important there is consistency. And I think consistency, yes, I'd say consistency, because if, let's say, you're a brand and you will just do donations here and there, but there is no strong, consistent effort to sustain that corporate social responsibility, then the public will see this as lip service or as riding on the situation. But I think what's important for a CSR to become effective, it has to be sustained and it has to be consistent. Not only when there is a crisis, but even after this crisis. For instance, those who have all jumped on the bandwagon of the COVID, you see a lot of relief efforts. You see a lot of brands distributing masks and PPEs. But what happens after that? Will you stop, or will you still continue your corporate social responsibility? Brands that are successful insofar as CSR is concerned are brands that continue their CSR communications well beyond the crisis, even and well beyond and well after the crisis has passed.
Wow. Well said, well said. I'm so, this is amazing. Your insights are very exciting, Dugi. Now, my question is, we're almost running out of time, but I think this one is very important. My earlier interview mentioned, si Jerry said, as a finance guy, he's looking, or he's going to spend on something that is essential. So you go towards the essentials first. How important is it? Is it still an essential budget item for the management to consider?
That's a very good question, and we get this a lot. Of course, it would be self-serving to say that you should not cut advertising and promotions budget. But let me put it in this context. In times of a crisis, brands that continue to communicate their messages to the consumers, whether they are buying or not, are brands that will emerge as the winners after the crisis. This crisis, Jerry said this earlier, this crisis will pass. And if you are not on top of mind among the general public, then you will not be remembered when the crisis has. For instance, I am a brand that decided to cut budgets now. I am a food brand, for instance, or not even. Let's look at brands that are not considered essentials. For instance, a handbag brand, for instance, you cut your budget because it makes no sense to do any promotions because people will not be looking to buying handbags during the crisis. Everybody's focused on health products, food, and the essentials. But when this crisis passes, the brand that has advertised, that has promoted themselves through either social media, bloggers, TV, print, radio, etc., will be the brands that people will remember when the public goes back to shop again. And it is human nature to look for some sense of normalcy. We want to be normal. I mean, I remember when the GCQ was announced, the first thing I did was go to the mall and just walk around. Even though I didn't really buy anything, I did go to the mall to walk around. But it gave me a sense of normalcy and continuity, so to speak, which we all need it to survive and to cope with this crisis. And if you are a brand that decided to be out of mind, out of sight, then that's what's going to happen when the crisis passes. You will be out of sight, out of mind. And the brands that continue to communicate their messages will be the brands that people will patronize and buy after the crisis has passed.
Wow, well said, Dugi. That's very insightful. But Dugi, what are the other best practices? Halimbawa, may mga maraming nanonood, open for businesses really into helping MSMEs survive, and also, we always try to give tips, practical tips, so people is, especially those who were affected by COVID will still have that hope and continue to be resilient and remain, as the title of the show says, open for business. What are the other strategies that you can provide in terms of content building, selecting media targets, building good relations with stakeholders and the audiences?
Well, insofar as messaging is concerned, as I said, do not. If budgets are tight, there will always be a way to maintain some sort of communications and promotional efforts. And you can do this by, for instance, if you're a brand that used to get the services of 20 bloggers, maybe you can whittle it down to 5 and just use them as your permanent partners. Or you can maybe shift your budgets. Instead of getting into doing broadcast or TV, you can maybe move it to more online vehicles to promote yourselves. That's one thing you can do. There is always a way to do it. Now, insofar as messaging is concerned, I think what's key there is to keep your messaging attuned to the times. People are talking about essentials and crisis and recovery. I agree with Jerry when he said that COVID, take that out of the communications already because it's here, it's the reality. So I think now it's high time to look at messaging towards that speaks to recovery and resiliency. I think that's one way that businesses can recover. Focus your messaging on how to recover. Focus your resources on how to improve how you reach your clients better or how you service the clients that you still have left. Because the clients that you service well, that are and maintain during this crisis, will be your biggest champions when the crisis is over. So don't lose or don't. Now is not the time to be what's the word, haphazard insofar as customer relations is concerned. Now is the time to even strengthen your relationship with your customers. Make it more personal when you relate to your customers so that they will be your biggest champions, even in the midst of this pandemic.
Wow, well said, well said. That's a great way to end this conversation. But I will shift a bit to being personal, Dugi. And I will ask this, to you because there might, and based on some reports, I got a lot of news reports that um, small businesses go into some kind of depression as well. Businessmen also, find this very, very stressful. And as the managing director of PRC, on your on your personal level and convenience, how should business owners, CEOs, managing directors handle stress, handle depression, brought about this global pandemic?
Well, as far as handling businesses, admittedly, there will really be a lot of businesses that will close. That is inevitable. But for those that are still struggling, I think what they can do is to refit their businesses to meet the current demands. I've seen a lot of companies, bad companies, that repurposed their business to join the relief efforts, creating PPEs, for instance, that are made of leather. And this is one way that businesses can do to survive. For those that are in the service industry, like those in the communications industry, I think it is important to improve and even better how you service your clients so that they will still stay with you. Because, service industries, it's really the customer experience that will spell the difference between them leaving or not. And I think if you continue to give them the best customer experience, then they will stay. They will. I do believe they will stick it out with you. And for businesses that are such as myself, don't be too greedy. If your clients are going through a budget cuts, be flexible enough to cut your budgets as well. Instead of being used to this much retainer fees, then maybe you can cut it down a bit. Because if you help your clients survive this, then they will still be with you after the crisis. And if they rebound, they will remember that. In the end, the humanity will come into play. And the client will remember, oh, this agency, this supplier of mine helped me by not charging me too much, perhaps, or by adjusting their fees as well. So I will return that in kind. And this is how. Now, on a personal basis, I think it's just a matter of doing what you can to cope. If your way of coping with the pressure and with the stress of the pandemic is some sort of home activity, then pursue it. If you like to cook, then cook. If you like to reach out to your friends abroad or even around the country through Facebook or through FaceTime, then do it. Anything you can do to cope with the stress will be important. Some people have resorted to doing TikTok videos to help, or even to watching feel-good videos just so they can cope with the stress. Then do that, because that if it will help ease your mental health or help in your mental health, then all the more we should do it in earnest.
Wow, that's very inspirational. There's a lot of SMEs, businessmen who are hopefully watching now, and they heard you that you will cut your rates for them. Dugi, where will they find PRC and Dugi Duhenia, the managing director of PRC? Where will they
have
find you?
our website, www.teamprcinc.com.ph, and of course they can contact us at we still have an office. Although we do work from home, we still maintain an office. We do have our landlines at 470-8535, and of course they can contact me through my my work email, which is michael.duhenia@teamprcinc.com.ph. And of course, we have a Facebook page, which is, pardon? Team PRC. Yeah.
Team PRC.
PRC INC. Yes.
That is Michael Duguidugenio, the Managing Director of PRC, talking about media, branding, and media consumption, and all things about marketing and media consumption. Thank you very much for gracing Open for Business. Open for Business will return. Stay with us.
Mula sa libu-libong nangarap at nagpakita ng galing, iisa lang ang nagtagumpay at hinirang na TNG's first grand winner. Ngunit hindi dyan nagtatapos ang pagpapakita nila ng gilas. Sa September 5, Sabado at September 6, Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali at alas 9 ng gabi ay muli nating samahan ng ating mga hurado na humanap ng mga Pilipinong may natatanging galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Abangan ang lahat ng yan dito sa mas pinalawak at mas pinalaking talent competition on TV and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Dito lang sa Net 25. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 is co-presented by Kubert, an expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Our sponsors, BDO, we find ways. JRC Industrial Sales, R Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Robis Builders, Chris Rapp Enterprises, Victory Carpentry, DOP Asiatic Pest Control Services, and AUB Aspire for the Future. In partnership with New Era University ETAP, Expanded Tertiary Education, Equivalency and Accreditation Program. Embrace Cafe, we embrace differently abled persons.
Thank you for watching Open for Business. Join us again in the next episodes of Open for Business for more insights from CEOs, thought leaders, industry experts, and SMEs promoting business development in the Philippines. See you again every Saturday and Sunday here in Open for Business, where we discuss business information, deliver the latest business news to keep you informed and open for business, and be ahead of the curve from vision to action. You're on Facebook Live on Eagle News and at Net25 TV, and you can watch us again in the video section of the Eagle News and Net25 Facebook pages and on eaglenewslive.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Net25 TV.
SMC Global Power.
Konstruksyon ng Metro